Hello comrades, so today we're going to learn how to use Unity events. For that we need a scene, we need some objects in it, and we'll need two scripts that I prepared. One is called script with event, another one is called second script that will register to event. I just drag them on camera object, but you can drag them on whatever, it doesn't really matter. So let's look at the scripts themselves. So we're learning Unity events. Events are things that allow you to register your function to some happening event. For example, your player died and you want to update a lot of stuff in all your different scripts that you have. So what you do, you register on player death event, and when player actually dies, you just trigger this event and it executes all the functions that were registered on it. Alright, so let's see how we create an event. We do public, that's access modifier, then Unity event, and then event test, which is a name. To use Unity events, you need to say using Unity engine.events on top. Otherwise, you just won't be able to see it. But let's see how we can actually easily do it. So if you just write Unity event here, it tells you that it's not allowed. You can click this and just add using Unity engine events. All right, and Unity event by default has no parameters. If you want to have event with parameter, you have to more or less create another class that inherits. Remember, we learned inheritance from Unity event, and you also specify types of parameters that your event will have. So I called my event my event. So public class my event, which inherits from Unity event, and it will have int, string, bool, and float parameters in this specific order. You can have from 1 to 4 added like this. All right, you can also add your specific classes. So for example, you want to have 20 parameters, you can create a class with these 20 things and then pass it as a parameter, because you're only allowed to pass up to 4 types. Yeah, so this is how you create event of your type. You just have this type. I called it my event, so it has to be my event, and I called it event test with param. So the things that you can do with events, you can register and unregister from them. Also, you can invoke them, which basically means trigger them. Let's see how we actually register on event. You use your variable that you used for event, so event test, and you say add listener. And you pass a function that will trigger once the event is triggered. So here it's on event test triggered from script with event. This is called script with event. And it will just call this function, which will print the text event test triggered from the script itself. And here I register event test with parameters on event with parameter triggered. So it's a function which takes 4 parameters of the types that are specified here. So int, string, boolean, and float. Int, string, boolean, and float. And then I use my string to print every single one of them. So int is int parameter, string is string parameter, bool is bool parameter, and float is float parameter. You can see that I use basically a $sign before the string, and then I use curly brackets to actually build your parameters or variables into the string. It's a very handy way of doing it. So just remember it, and once you need to deal with strings and you need to put a lot of value, like, okay, your health is tralala, you know that you'll be able to do this, then your health is, and just curly brackets health. All right. So what else you can do with events is add them from the UI. Maybe you know that when you have like a button, for example, it has onClick event, which is also a Unity event. And it has this interface where you can drag some script onto it and then select the event that you will call, the function that you will call when this event triggers. So let's look at our code again. Here is our second script that will register to event. What it has a reference to script with event, so to this one. And here we dragged it. So what I did this. And we have a reference. In the beginning, what it will do, it will access our script with event, access our event, and add listener on event test triggered, and then print that reacting to event from the second script. We also have a function here, on event test triggered from UI, which will print reacting to event from second script from UI. So that's exactly the function that I assigned here. So whenever event test is triggered, it will execute on this script, second script that will register to event. You can see here, second script that will register to event on event test triggered from UI. So this will be executed. And let's see how I set it up. We have update, and we check if the space was pressed or left control was pressed. So if the space was pressed, I will trigger this event test by saying event test invoke. And after that, what I'll do, I will remove all listeners. So whatever listeners it had, it doesn't have it anymore, except from the listeners that were added from UI. So only the listeners that were added from script will be removed. And I add another listener on space pressed second time, which is just a function that says space pressed again. And if I press left control, then event test with parameter will be invoked, so triggered, and I pass 3, wow, true, and 3.2f, which have to print these values in this sentence. Okay, what I forgot to tell you is that script with event script and my event class, it has to be system.serializable. It has to have this attribute, otherwise you'll have null reference. So it won't really recognize that it exists. And it will also help you to actually have it seen here. And you will be able to assign this event. But for now, I will just remove it because we already learned how to kind of do it here. All right, so let's run. And let's look at the console. So nothing happens right now, and I press space. We have reacting to event from second script from UI and reacting to event from second script. And then event test triggered from the script itself. So this was triggered, this was triggered, and this was triggered. So we registered here, here, and in editor. What happened now also, we registered to on space pressed second time, and we removed all listeners. So when we press space the second time, you can see that reacting to event from second script from UI was also executed, but also space pressed again was executed. And now when we press, only these two will be executed. When we press left control, int is 3, string is wow, bool is true, and float is 3.2. And we can press it and it will print it again and again. So if I remove collapse, we can see this. All right. So here is everything for today. That's pretty easy to do and it's very useful. So if your game has to change at some point when something happens, better just register for that, and everything that needs to change will change. Because the other way to do it is to always check if some boolean is changed, or to manually call from the place where it actually changed, like when where your player died, to manually call every single thing that you have to execute. And that will be really annoying to do. All right. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more updates on how to deal with Unity. And see you in the next video.